need is some black. And
Bottom tube.
Black, and I need that dark brown. And I also need that medium brown, that yellow ochre. Yeah, we'll start with that. These colors, this color here is sort of the general color. This is raw, what is it? Umber, raw umber. So it's the darkest brown. And if I have the little bit of this color and everything, it'll create a tone that'll go across the whole painting. So I'm going to use some of that. And I've got my white here. A little touch of black. Don't need too much black. Definitely need a lot of this brown. Ooh. You may wear an old t-shirt for some reason. And some of this. So this is sort of the colors I'm going to use to make my rock.
What's the dark yellow one?
This one here? Mm-hmm. That's yellow ochre. Yellow ochre. So there's the palette. It's white, Mars black, raw umber, yellow ochre. I have a lighter shade of yellow too. It's called Naples yellow. It's dried hard here. I won't be using it. I might use it later as a highlight, depending. But I'm going to use the white to generate either the snow caps and or the grays and browns of the rock. Now the next brush I'm going to need is a little short guy that you've got there in your hand. That's the guy here. This is a tall painting brush. It's pretty stiff, and it's really important that when I make the paint mixes, I don't mix them thoroughly. You want to make it what I call a loose mix. So how you make loose mixes, you can take a little bit of the darker color, move it into the white, and that's pretty loose there. And you can see some of the brown and some of the white, you know, on separate bristles in the brush. You see that there. So I'm going to use that to kind of design my slope and generate the angle. Now in the picture we talked about a 30-degree angle. It's going to start somewhere about here, and it's going to angle its way up along here somewhere, getting steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper until it gets to about there on the top. Okay, so I'm going to just generate the slope. This is kind of the sketch. Bill will have a look at it and he'll determine whether he thinks it's a more what he was thinking about behind his trestle.
Magazine from New Zealand.
So what do you think, Bill? Is that slope right, or does it have to be more?
No, that's fine by me.
Does that look like the proper slope?
Yeah.
This looks a little steeper than 30 degrees, so I'm actually going to try to reduce it.
You do have to keep in mind we're 2,000 miles from the topic, and I'm not going to have the book out all the time so everybody can nitpick and polish rivets. I mean, it's background.
Yeah.
It'll bring the whole thing together and just make the whole layout look better, I believe.
You notice I'm just punching the color loosely in here because this isn't painted per se yet. It's just what we're going to be using as a foreground line. The second foreground line is, I mean, this is your real rock formation. You're not going to have rock above that,
No,
right?
no.
So this angle here is coming down like so, roughly on a 30-degree angle, and it goes behind your trestle. Now the mountain scene is that we saw, which was craggy, it actually went up a bit here. And there was some other things going on in the background here which actually made it a little bit sharper. There was another mountain here, I believe, in the picture, and it was kind of like this. and came down on a fairly sharp angle like so. And I think off in the distance, in a third picture, there was distant mountains, which you didn't show me earlier today. And I'm just going to create this mountain scenery back here.
That's what you were looking at.
Yeah. So that it kind of goes like so. I'm going to do it like this.
Yeah, and it actually climbs up a bit at the bottom. It sort of goes like this. You see?
Yeah. It's sharp here.
Yep.
So stand back and have a look at that, Bill, and tell me what you think of it. Is it correct? Does it need a little bit more height here? Maybe up here?
I can live with that.
Maybe a little bit more here?
Yep.
Is that what about? Was there a V there, or did it actually just be? Was it a shorter hump? It's important to try to get it as close as possible. So it was a little bit shorter. It just was more like this. This came out much farther, and this was shorter, kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then this kind of went off this way, maybe even higher.
Yeah, that's looking good.
Yeah, that's looking good there, right?
Yeah, that's looking very good.
Now this area back in here, even though we don't have the camera angle, needs something for distance, and I'm going to add it in there.
It has that gray mountain.
Has a little gray mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about down in here in the background? If we were standing over there, there'd be something back here.
Possibly.
Yeah, okay, I'm just going to fake it there.
Yep.
All right, so we're good to go?
Yep.
All right. I knew I was missing a color here. Can I get a bit of blue from the paint? It's over in the big bin there. There should be some blue. That's good. Whoa, that's good. All right, so adding some blue will give you some distance here in the color. See a bit of a Payne's gray now, adding the blue to it. A little bit more blue. See, the blue is slightly darker than the sky. Okay, so to create slope lines, you always start from the top of the slope and paint down. And again, when I was talking about rough color, you just grab the other color like blue or whatever and just stroke it into the wet paint. See that blue? And it changes the tone. And there's a lot of sky color normally in the and if you put darker over the light, it brings it into the foreground a little bit more there. And just fill it in roughly. This one here is a little bit darker. I'm going to add a bit of brown to it. A little bit of blue. And dark. This one will be a little darker. And it will come right in front of this other one. A little bit of brown, a little bit of blue. And by drying the paint down creates the slope angle. So if you want to create a slope this way, you pull the paint in the direction of the slope from the top down. Okay, so you pick a shadow side and a light side based on Bill's lights. They're coming from the left over here, so the shadows are going to be more on the right. Make that a little bit darker over here. A little more brown. What were you going to ask, Bill?
Well, I have a tripod here if you want to try using that.
A tripod?
Yeah.
To do what?
To hold the camera.
Oh, no, it's okay. Handheld is best.
Okay.
Speaks the man not holding the camera.
It's a case of holding it by the tripod. It'll work better unless you find that it's just absolutely... You can change your angle and move around. Okay, now I'll put some more white in this one and create the slope. Now you can see the shadows on one side and the lights on the other, and that creates your mountain slope. A little bit of light up here. Just to create a little highlight at the top, maybe a little bit of snow, a little bit of light. The white creates light. One more white. You can use the brush that you feel most comfortable with. I like this Toll painting brush. It's stiff and does some neat things. And you paint from the inside to the line. There you go. Alright. And I'm just creating long kind of strokes in there. Okay, so maybe add a little bit of brown in this time just to change the color a bit. I put a little bit of blue in there and brown. And I'm just now grabbing paint from different color sources here to create some variation. There we go.
Looks good.
It's getting there. Alright, so now from the other side, the next mountain starts here. And it's got to be a little darker because it's a little closer. Okay, so I'm just going to create some color there. Some cragginess. Again, that's the angle down the mountain. 30, 40 degrees, whatever. Can always go in and fix the tops a bit. Dab in a bit of white. Make it look a little lighter, a little bit of light here and there. Create some variation. You find parts you don't like, just stroke it out a little bit with a brush. Okay, a little bit more white. He's going to be back in a second. Okay. When you want to create your cliff angles, you got to put darker colors in. I just dab it in and then work it. A little bit of darker color in there. Brown in there.
see, what you're doing, Chris, is just not in my skill set.
No?
No, I cannot wrap my mind around what we're doing here.
Well, all I'm doing is using light and dark dabs of paint to try to generate some kind of... There's three things you got to be concerned in your painting. Is you want to have color, obviously. You want to also have texture, which means that there has to be shadow and light somewhere. And there has to be sort of a tone where it gets a lot stronger as it gets closer,
Yep.
and more faded when it's far away. So the tone here is much lighter. It's less detailed. There's less texture. As it comes to the forward, how I'm creating the textures is using more dabbing and stroking techniques. And as long as it's not all solidly one color, it'll naturally generate some sort of shape. And sometimes it's a discovery. It's not intentional. It just kind of happens. Like, I didn't plan this before I came. It just sort of started happening as I started painting. And sometimes when you do stuff, you say, gosh, I thought I had it right, and then you do something different and it changes it, see? Because when I looked at your picture there, it's very craggy, so I'm now using a vertical kind of dabbing technique and just varying the colors. And because I'm loosely using paint, I can change just by dabbing at it the effect. You see, the shadows and highlights just come from using alternating amounts of brown and alternating amounts of white in the cracks and crevices, you see?
Mm-hmm.
Now, skill set wise, it's like anything, you just practice it. I think that's the key, that you just try it. Like, there's some people that have looked at my videos and just started using the techniques, and they were surprised they could do it. And they shouldn't be, because it's just a case of seeing where you think light should be. Now, see in here, there's a little V. Maybe it's a perspective thing, but I could lighten that up, and that becomes light with dark. And it makes this sort of pop out a little bit more and the other more in the shadow. So by using these more vertical strokes, I'm really creating sort of that craggy mountain look. Now, see down here, it's kind of messy, right? Because really the angles aren't correct, or they're not the way they should be. But I can change that by just putting some white paint over it. I haven't mixed any of my colors. They're being mixed right on the backdrop. You see? Now, see in here, it begs white because it's just all one color in there. So I'm just going to dab some white in there. And it changes everything, right? And the same over here, just put some white in there, really showing that there's light coming through. And dab, dab, dab. And you can see over here where I've just got no light color, I can just dab some white in there, and it changes the color completely. And I don't worry about mistakes per se, because you can always go in and fix it just by getting close to the edge and pulling your colors down. Like so. So I just keep working this mountain down till it joins in here somewhere. At some point I'm going to introduce some foresty colors. I'm getting pretty close to that point, but we'll see as we get along here. Put a little bit of touch of blue in this now because we're getting more in the background up here. A Payne's gray kind of shape. And this may actually come down in front.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere like so, and kind of crag down this way. Okay, so that allows me to fill in we've got in here. Gotta be fairly happy with that. Just put some color in there. Put just a touch of blue in here. Just add some color. Little bits of blue. Okay, so you always work from the back to the front. So the distant mountains are done first, and then as you move forward, you get into the more detail, and trees will start to appear, and some of the grassy colors will start to appear. I want to sort of make sure there is some distinctive aspects to this, some light here, especially as it gets down into this part you see in here, just adding a bit of light. Will generate some color, a little more brown. It doesn't have to be exact because, again, it's an impressionistic technique, and nobody's going to stare at the mountains. What they're going to be doing is looking at the trains. So even when there's a bit of blue, it doesn't really matter. Leela thought I should color maybe a bit more of it in, and I don't want to get it, I don't want to ruin that edge there. Which I may have done. Okay. Alrighty, so we've done, that's the distant mountain, that one's in front, and that one's in front. It has some shape to it. You could put a little bit more dark brownish patches sort of in here, just to create a bit more color. Basically, it's done. You don't want to overdo it.
Looks good.
So you can see there's a bit of a pattern here. Everything's on the 30-degree angle when it's sloping away from the cragginess. There is a spot here where you could use a little more white, because you're creating that funny little ridge line that you see cragging along here. So, a little more white. When it's wet, it blends in, so don't be afraid to be bold about it. And then just sort of let it. If you find it too much, just grab a bit of brown, a bit of blue, maybe a bit of black. Almost create a little canyon in there. And then just wipe out the extra paint there until you're happy with the color. It all sort of starts to blend together, but don't overdo it. Just get a little touches and pulls. And you can sort of see a line now starting to form right about here. And what I'm doing is just creating levels of land in front. And you You can play and work with it as much as you want. You might find this too craggy, just pull a little bit out. Just by little touches and pulls. It takes the super cragginess away. But remembering this, the speckling aspect is kind of neat at times. Right at the top here of the mountain. Take a lot of the paint off my brush here. Just kind of highlight that edge. Maybe a little white. Just highlight the edge. There we go. Highlight some edges in there. A little bit of white. There. There's a little blue in there. So there we are. What do you think? At this point I'm going to move to the next mountain. It's going to be a little bit harder to reach.
Well, that looks good from where I stand.
You like that?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a little dark here. Okay. Just put a little bit of variation in there. Again, and the angle that you pull the paint down gives you the angle of the slope of the mountain. So this is a bit of a new slope in there, like that. And if you want to highlight it more, you can use lighter paint here. Again, this is just showing technique, but it won't ruin Bill's painting. But by doing so, you see how that just brought out that ridge more? Mm-hmm. Light on one side, dark on the other. So any place you want to put a ridge in, like in here, you just add a little bit of extra light. That's it. That's how you do it. Okay, so you can even put a little bit of base there, but we'll be going over that part. All right, so now we're going to tackle this final big rocky slope at the top over here. That means I'm going to have to do the dance of joy and move.